Okay, so real quick, I'm going to go through my presentation that I made. Can't remember who made this presentation, but I edited their, so this all wasn't me. I don't take all the work credit by any means. I'm not this good at designing. But getting straight into it, when I'm presenting and my credibility and background, I studied entrepreneurship and innovation at Ball State University, where I pitched to crowds from 50 people to um, five CEOs of big companies, just a bunch wide span of presenting. And I got lucky to get a professor that had her PhD in presenting, and she like did a TED talk. Really helpful. So what I want to get at though, now that I've built that little credibility and why I'm doing this, is the psychology in which I built this is very important because and what I say, you don't want too many words on your screen because everyone knows that presentation. That's like, all right, this is chaotic. I don't really care. But you have to be super into the presentation and super passionate about it. And it's going to show to the audience that, wow, they like whatever they're doing, what they're presenting right now. She really must love or fellowship. And that's what you're trying to display to get across them. So, with my first thing in opening in my presentation, I say, who in here is seniors? Everyone raises their hand. In most cases, I'm presenting to a senior class and they know that possibly I know that. So why would I say that? Well, when they're raising their hands, it's immediately getting them to do something interactive. So now they're interacted into this presentation. Okay, so they raise their hands. Then I ask them a follow-up question. Well, who in here has a job? And then they lower their hand. Most cases, some people, maybe one or two up. And then what I'm achieving with that is the fact to get them to rationalize through their head, I'm a senior and I need to start looking for jobs. So I should really pay attention to this. That's my hook and grab. And that's why the psychology in that works because most people are going to listen to that conversation. So now, after I say that, I say, I really try to make a really good hard connection in the beginning. I remember last year when I was sitting in your very seats and someone came in and I was like, all right, who's this person presenting? And then I heard the line recruiting and developing the next generation of business leaders and entrepreneurs. And my ears perked up. And I thank myself for closing my laptop and listening to that right then and there because Orr Fellowship has formed and changed my life within the 4 months that I've already been in here. So now that I got that connection and then got a lot of people listening and I have enthusiasm, I'm getting just about everyone in the classroom to listen and not be on their laptops. So then I go explain myself. I'm not going to bore you with all this. And then I have the questions down below. I move this screen. It doesn't look like it's going to let me move it. All right. Anyways, I went past that screen. So it's just two things. My favorite thing about Orr Fellowship and why. Hitting on that why is so important. Simon Sinek talks about it in his book, Start With Why, and the psychological reasons why we should start with why. So before they even know what the heck Orr Fellowship is, I'm telling them the why. The why is super important. Why you should do this because you're going to be a part of a robust group of dynamic, and you can be paired with many different companies. Like I'm giving them that why, which I had in my. For some reason, when I present though, it doesn't let me go back for whatever reason. But anyways, yeah. So with that previous one, it was really just along the lines of stating that why is very important, and then saying my favorite part was business. I loved the network connections, and then I'm building my foundation right after college to have that jumpstart growth and that solid foundation that I can just skyrocket exponential growth. And then I kind of go into what Orr Fellowship is after stating my favorite part and the why. You should really spend a lot of time on your why and understand that why is very important in intriguing people. So then I explain to them like a broad overview of Orr Fellowship and then the things that we do. We've kind of, we all know this, so I'm going to skip this. This is a very important slide to understand what Orr Fellowship is. And I know not everyone might not like this explanation, but at the end of the day, I've gotten a lot of good feedback, and this is the one that works and everyone understands because when I went through the application process, I didn't even know I hardly knew what Orr Fellowship was. It was so confusing to me. I just couldn't wrap my head around it. What's the easiest and best way to describe it? Like people can go in circles and talk about it. I just said, think of Orr Fellowship as a business fraternity, and I reinstate, it's not a business fraternity. But think of Orr Fellowship as a business fraternity after college, and then picture Ball State, where you're currently going, and this business fraternity, right? The connection between them two. So, Orr Fellowship, this business fraternity, and then Ball State. But instead of you paying Ball State, these companies are paying you your salary. So then, like, that wraps the whole thing into it, and like, have gotten amazing feedback to literally this makes sense. Like, I've had other people talk to me about it, and I just still couldn't wrap my head around it. And that was the best framework and comparison I came up with, and it works really well. So, and then again, reinstating building the next generation of business leaders and entrepreneurs. And again, if you edit this, I highly recommend don't put words like even that building the next generation of business leaders and entrepreneurs in the Indianapolis area is pushing it. As I've learned from my professor that got her PhD in presenting, it wasn't literally presenting, it was something else. She said that think about the boring presentations. You don't want a bunch of text. You want a lot of very drawing in images, and that's what I try to do. Like the applications over here, then Orr Fellowship, which is like the middle person basically, or this organization that has the framework, kind of like a business fraternity, which is like the marketing, recruiting, outreach, all that stuff is still in Orr Fellowship. And then you have all these partner companies, High Alpha, Indiana Auto Care, Angie, Roush, whatever. Not Roush, Roche. Don't quote me on that. And then I go over and I kind of explain what some of the companies do. And then I do this. I think all this is pretty makes sense. So I'm not going to go too much into that. Everyone knows that. And there's some pictures. I use this. The only one I added was boats because that was the most recent one. And then I think this is very important, Indiana, showing why you should stay in Indiana. And it also helps you remember psychologically that you need to present to them that to create a question that won't be asked now, not to create a question which in Q&A could be used towards that time is really specific towards the people that are trying to understand it, that are interested. So to deviate any more questions, this is in Indianapolis with 70 plus high growth partner companies, and then explaining the $50,000, which is their first year salary, is blah, 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 comparable to this city and this city, and so on and so forth. I think this is a really good slide. And then some praises, some really quick praises. It's like, wow, reinstating India is a good place. Then after 2 years, I hit on this really hard. This slide I hit on very hard to kind of show them why Orr Fellowship, what happens after, because people are curious about after the 2 years. 15 plus Orr Fellows have gone to start their own company, and that was just crazy to me. Like, that makes me reinstate, like when I was in entrepreneurship as a major, I wanted something that was going to tailor to my entrepreneurship skills and be able to help me build my company after Orr Fellowship. So this is what piqued my ears, and I think this slide and describing it is really good. And then also for the people that are wanting to get their master's or PhD, hey, some of our applicants have gone to Harvard, Northwestern University, London School of Economics and Political Science, so on and so forth. You get the point. And then I added this. So this to really, and the reason why. So I got the CEO, and which is going to be a speaker soon. I saw, and the company's valuation was $50 million. Now, why did I put $50 million valuation? Why did I research that? Why did I look into that? Because who knows Mallow, or sorry if I pronounced it wrong, like no one. For the most part, it's a big company, but that's what I'm presenting with the $50+ million. Because what if someone's like, what if they just started it and they have like no money in the company or something like that? So I reinstated it, and it's like $50+ million. Wow, that's a big company. And that's an Orr Fellow right there. And then I go to Max Yoder, one of the most notorious known Orr Fellows, and his evaluation of his company was $3 billion, according to an article. I have some sources if you're actually curious about it and how that evaluation went in. And then I really hit a pinpoint. That's my personal story, and you got to add your personal stories to connect with the audience, to keep them intrigued and listening and wanting more and to hear more with this opportunity. And I said, one of the most interesting things in Orr Fellowship that has happened to me so far was I was on LinkedIn. I heard about Max Yoder, and then I was like, well, I'll shoot him a LinkedIn request. We'll see how it happens. And then so I'm like, hey, Hey Max, I'm a Orr Fellow. I'd love to connect to you, maybe get to chat to you sometime. I love to hear that you're an Orr Fellow as well. Love to connect, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't think anything of it. A day later, Max Yoder accepts my LinkedIn request. So now I have someone who has a company that is evaluated at $3 billion in my portfolio of my network, which speaks volumes. And there's many other people like that. And then I go into say another story. The vice president of Genesis Beer, vice president of Genesis marketing, vice president of marketing at Genesis I was at a pitch event and I was like, just chilling out, and he came up to me and said, "Hey, what are you doing after college? I've heard some things about you." And then I was like, "Oh, I'm an Orr Fellow," and he said, "No way, I'm an Orr Fellow too." The vice president of Genesis, which is crazy, of marketing, I was blown away, and he was like, "I was an Orr Fellow too." Which leads me on to the next one, which is Christy Hurst. She's the vice president of marketing at Make My Move, which is separate company, is to show and reinstate that, hey, not everyone has to be this big bad CEO or coming to like, or fellows progress in jobs as well in employment. You don't have to start your own company is what I'm trying to psychologically get through those people is like, wow, this person's high up in that company. I wonder if I could do that as well. So then I talk about that. And then I say what we look for. Why is this important? I'm telling you, do not move this slide. This slide is perfectly, everything is interconnected and psychologically sound for a reason. Although maybe I didn't get to all the single points. This one is very important why I bring it up. So why did I put what we look for now instead at the beginning? Well, if I put it at the beginning, then anyone with below a 3.2 GPA or expect your graduation in the classroom if there's that 1 or 2 juniors. If I put it at the beginning, well, everyone that didn't qualify for this is now not listening. Now, why would I get people wanting to listen that are not qualified for it? Well, if it's a junior, it's branding Orr Fellowship into the university and understanding that it takes a lot of time and commitment to build this huge reputation at a university to get a lot of people to know about Orr Fellowship before applications even know. So it's building this long-term branding at that university as well if they're younger. But in the case if they have below a 3.2, they're a senior and they have below the requirements to even apply. And it's like, Hunter, why wouldn't you put that at the beginning? Well, they know about this opportunity now because they were listening. They didn't know about the requirements. They were listening this entire time. They were intrigued. They figured out they couldn't. Shucks, that sucks. But they have a buddy or two that's pretty smart, pretty bright. He has the GPA, she has the GPA, or whoever has the GPA. And look at that. He's talking to this person and telling his buddy that like, hey, I heard about this thing, this presentation or fellowship. I think you should apply. So it's word of mouth that you're creating as well. And that's why the psychology in this PowerPoint being towards the end is very important. QR codes, make sure you have them because think about being in someone else's shoes. I'm not going to look up Orr Fellowship. It's super easy. Boom, I can scan it. Boom, got the application. I'll have it on my, actually, I'll do it right now. Scan, boom, take me to the website, and then I'll close it and I'll save it and I'll come back to it later or whatever. And then also, Kayla Clark actually helped me with this one as well, bringing paper like slips about what Orr Fellowship is and where to apply and stuff like that. So then I go through the process and everything. And then I tell them that it can be kind of confusing. There's a lot of things going on, but what I want to get to you to know today is why you should apply and what Orr Fellowship is my main thing that I'm trying to take away and to get them apply if they qualify. And then we can talk about a lot of the stuff that's happening. Although that's important, I know that, but there's so much for them to digest with Orr Fellowship because it's such a unique value proposition that you have to really understand and being in their head, always putting your feet in the person you're presenting to shoes, understand that you're throwing a lot at them. So you just want them to know what Orr Fellowship is and to get them to apply if they qualify. Those are the objectives. And to, again, know what Orr Fellowship is, because if they don't qualify, then they can tell their people, hey, this opportunity, and getting that word of mouth building. Because word of mouth, believe it or not, is one of the biggest things in business, especially smaller businesses and recruitment season for that matter, that matters a lot. So when you see applications come in and no one puts their name on it, well, their roommate or someone close in their family knew about it and told them they should apply because that word of mouth that you created from that presentation that expanded out. It starts with the root and it grows out like a branch system. So There we go. And then I asked for Q&A, some questions. So that's my presentation, the psychology of it. I hope you enjoyed this.